Well, yeah, thank you for doing this. I had an amazing time with my friend Josh downstairs. I think it was in Feb I came here.
Yeah.
An array of sort of marvelous dishes. I absolutely had a brilliant time. But one thing I want to start with is I read online that you've got this kind of this sort of the ninth manifesto, which is all about culture. And I really want to sort of dig into that today because culture is something that I'm endlessly sort of passionate about. But there's one thing on there I was like, wow, that's a good line, which was your favorite restaurants should transcend the menu. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. So that's what I'd love to start with is, and like, how does a favorite restaurant transcend a menu, and how do you think about that here specifically?
That is you're talking about our vision statement. Our vision statement at the ninth is to be our team and guests' favorite restaurant.
Yes.
And the reason that I love the word favorite is because there's emotion and feeling behind the word. Dan, if I was to say to you, what's your favorite restaurant, what would you say?
Oh my God, that's such a good question. It's the one, I don't know, it's the one that I go back to the most, to be fair. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
But it's not the best restaurant you've been to.
Oh my God. Yeah, so this is Rory Sutherland's thing. Do you know who Rory Sutherland is?
Yes.
Yeah. So we talked about this the other day, and he basically says, is exactly this point, which is he would say your favorite restaurant, when people say, what's your favorite restaurant? They'll usually say the one that gives them the most status. So it'd be a 3-star, or like, the River Cafe or no. And funny enough, when you asked me that question, I was trying to think of the most swanky wanky one that's I've been to, right?
But the reality is,
it's the one you go back to the most.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's the place that you feel most comfortable. It's the place they probably recognize you. And when a guest says to me, the ninth is our favorite restaurant, that means more than someone saying the ninth is the best restaurant we've been to. Because I know that we've done something right to give that guest the feeling that we're their favorite restaurant. And also, I know they're going to come back because you don't necessarily go back to the best restaurant you've ever been to. The best restaurant I've ever been to was Noma. I only went there once.
Sure.
My favorite restaurant, I go every week.
Noma and Nando's again every Thursday for
Exactly.
a cheeky Noma. But I think that's so true. And okay, so then how do you get people back? I know the food's wondrous.
Yeah.
It's astounding. I think obviously I've read online you sort of went for this sort of chilled New York kind of. I think New York inspired a lot of the restaurants. What you were saying, but how do you get people back in? Like, what are the sort of the ways other than the food?
Yeah, I think the most important is making people feel that we're genuinely glad to see them, and that is really important. So when people arrive at the restaurant, it's that initial contact. It's greeting them in a warm, genuine way, because people love to be recognized in terms of, I see you and you are important to us, and we will treat you as friends, family. And that feeling that you get in certain restaurants where you go there and they're super professional, they do everything right, but there isn't that warmth and that connection. And I think it's really important to make the connection with the guests. And if they feel that, and the service is good, the food is delicious, and they feel comfortable, they will come back. And I think it's about making people feel seen and valued and relaxed. And I think it's the same for the team. The mission, the vision statement, to be our team and guests' favorite restaurant. When we do exit interviews with all the team, and then when they say, this is our favorite restaurant that we've ever worked in, that says so much, because it means that we've done something right. It means that we've created an environment where they feel fulfilled, valued, inspired. And that is what we're here to do. And so it works both ways in terms of the team that work here and also the guests.
Seen, valued. I love that. And like, do you have like a system behind the scenes, like of how you track these regulars? Because again, I've spoken to, there's a lot of the guys at Fallow and Rowe, Jack and Will, use like this AI thing to track all the guest reviews and stuff to make sure that like they've got this some sort of system behind the scenes. And I love systems behind magic, because I think there's a great book by Will Gadara, which is Unreasonable Hospitality.
It's a great book.
I mean, it's a just prodigious book. Like I've read it like twice, and I just think there's so many lessons in that. But I think the whole systems behind like they'd managed to get the waiter to sort of figure out what that guest was doing that day by like a question, which was genius, and then they'd find a moment of surprise and delight. And I think what he talks about in the book is the couple the waiter overheard them, and they like had this amazing trip in New York. They just got married or something, and they were like, "Oh, but we haven't tried a hot dog." And then he goes outside, gets one of the proper New York hot dogs from the side of the street. And but there's a system behind that. Like, how do you guys sort of think about that with your customers and the ninth experience?
We don't take it to the level of Madison Park, because they had I believe they're called Dreamweaver.
What was the Dreamweaver? Sorry,
They employed someone specifically to come up with these ideas. A full-time person. It's written in a book.
Wild. Yeah, Dreamweaver.
Dreamweaver.
Yeah.
So I read the book a couple of times, and they were employed just to do this. In reality, I mean, that you can't do that.
Yeah.
We use our EPOS system, which is the reservation system. You can put all the details of what the guest drank the last time, whether they prefer sparkling or still water. Those small things seems insignificant, but when they come, you don't ask them, you just give them fizzy water. That makes an impact.
Yes.
It's these really, really small things. Oh, you had a bottle of the Californian Chardonnay last time you were here. Would you like that again? Or would you like something different?
Yeah.
And it's those small moments where it takes them by surprise, because everyone knows that all the information that we have. But when someone does that, it takes you by, like, it's a pleasant surprise.
Seen. Yeah, you feel seen, you feel valued. It's that kind of, it's the intangible beauty of going to restaurants, which I love, is you get that feeling of like, oh my, this is like a sort of that moment of escapism. Come off the streets here and we'll go, come off the streets, outside where we are on Charlotte Street. It's just bubbling with people who are super busy on their phones, emails. You come in here, it's like that small little thing can just dissipate all the kind of the stress. When you said on the staff side, like what have been, and I think, look, no restaurant's perfect, and I think you learn so much from mistakes. Like with this, we've learned from loads of mistakes. What have been some of those exit interviews where they've given you sort of harsh feedback or corrective feedback that's been super valuable and actually made the whole culture stronger? Because as I was saying to you earlier, as I think culture, and everyone I've spoken to on this podcast, is it's a sort of a moving organism.
It is.
It's not something that you just like you stick on a wall and it's like employee of the month. It has to move and grow, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's ugly. Speak to me about that.
You're right. A culture has to be molded.
Yes.
You can't let a culture just happen, because it won't be good. It has to have like clear direction and a clear vision of what it is that we want our culture to be. And then we mold it, and then we learn from the mistakes, and then we trim it, and we shape it into something that we want to be. This is really important. And on feedback, every 4 months, we sit down with the entire team. And this is for us to share feedback with them, how they're doing, where they need to improve. And also, it's a chance for them to give us feedback. The managers from the people they lead, and for me, I will get feedback from them about myself as well, which is super important. And we ask 3 questions. What is one thing I can do to make your work better? What is one thing I can start doing to make your work better? And one thing I should continue doing. So it's stop, start, and continue. So that's one thing they feel that I should stop doing to make their work better.
What has that been over the years?
Oh, it's been a few things.
Yeah. I'm very chaotic.
Yeah.
And so when I ask all these questions selfishly, Jun, but So I will say something, and then like, well, kind of like today, right? You saw us set up. So for listeners, we'd set everything up and spend about 45 minutes setting everything up, facing the window. Jun goes downstairs to get a coffee. He's come back upstairs. I'm like, we've moved every fucking table out of here, and we're completely different. That kind of stuff is quite chaotic.
Yeah.
But we've got the team's growing, and I want to sort of have those difficult conversations and say, look, where am I going wrong? What am I, what have been the things that have been with you that have, how do you annoy your team, I suppose?
I think before, I'll give you a couple of examples, but before I give the examples, we have to create an environment where people feel safe to give honest feedback. How often is it that we can give feedback to our bosses? Honest feedback, and know there's no repercussion. This is really important because otherwise we will get a diluted version or we won't get anything. So the first thing is we need to create this culture where people genuinely feel safe to be able to give honest feedback. And the way we do that is ourselves as the managers or the head chef, myself, we have to show vulnerability. And what I mean is when we make mistakes, or when I make a mistake, I will apologize for it. Hands down. I'll give you an example. We had a team briefing, and it was to do with every single week, each of us, every member of the team does a presentation for the entire team once a week, and we take it in turns. And this is a way of sharing knowledge. Also, it's really good practice for the person giving the presentation because it builds confidence. Everyone at some point in their career will have to speak in front of an audience.
Well, also public speaking is biggest people's greatest fear.
Exactly.
How big's the team?
25.
Okay, brilliant, yeah.
And then when we're talking about it, one of the assistant managers said, I don't want to do it. I feel really uncomfortable. And when she said that at the briefing, I was slightly annoyed and I questioned it, and I kept questioning her in front of everyone else. And after the meeting, she got upset. She started crying. And then I reflected on what I just did, and I thought I could have done that one-to-one afterwards. So straight after, I sat down and said, I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have done that in front of people. And actually, it's recognizing where we go wrong, apologizing for it. And by doing that, we're showing to the rest of the team it's okay to make mistakes, apologize, learn from our mistakes, and move on. So once we have this environment where people feel safe to give feedback, then we can sit down and ask them, what is one thing I can stop doing?
Yeah, because I think ultimately the way they do it in like the corporate world is 360 feedback, which is basically like it's a bollocks survey, if I'm being frank, because I did one before. It's like so obviously they don't have to directly face. I think there is obviously some value in that as well, but I think if you're a smaller team, I think there's creating a real environment where you can be safe. And I think vulnerability equals safety. Like if it's coming from the top or wherever it's coming from, vulnerability equals safety. And I think...
and it's harder one-on-one. To give someone feedback face-to-face, so much more difficult than writing it down anonymously and sending it in a 360. And it's more useful because when we write feedback down and we send it in an email or a form, sometimes it comes across very harsh because it's just words. And when we're giving someone feedback, there is expression, tone.
Yes.
Which gives a whole different meaning to the feedback. And I think it's really important to do it face-to-face.
Well, it's almost, you said you've got to be your favorite restaurant for the customer and your favorite restaurant for your team. It's like, if I went to a restaurant from a consumer perspective and a fucking robot came up and gave me my dish, I'd be like, that's shit. Again, so for the other side playing it round, it's like feedback shouldn't be done like robotically through an email. You get all the nuance and the texture and the depth and the body language. And it's, I think, linking it to your favorite restaurant that way, and also, for the employee side, it makes total sense. What have you? Yeah, God, I was going to say, what are some of the things they've given you feedback on, like over the years?
My sous chef, this is maybe a couple of years ago when we sat down. She gave me feedback and she said, "I understand certain days things go wrong. Walk-in fridge goes down. That month we've lost money." and I can see that you are stressed about these things that happen. And she said, but when you talk to me and interact with me on something different, I wish that that won't come out in the tone of your voice, the kind of the words that I say. Not that I was shouting or screaming, but that impatience, that stress comes out when I interact with her because I'm thinking about these other things that's going on. And she said, I wish you'd stop doing that. And I reflected on it, and she's right. And I changed. And about 6 months after that, no, less than that, probably 4 or 5 months afterwards, we sat down again. I asked her, have I improved? And she said, you've stopped it. And then 2 things happen. Then my sous chef realizes I've taken on board her feedback, listened to it and actioned it. And also, from my point of view, I believe that by doing that, I am a better person and a better leader because of it.
Well, that goes back to it being an organism and molding it. Well, you've got to get these little bits to sort of make it malleable and changing. What are some of the other tenets on that document? I think one is like one team. Like
One team mindset.
One team mindset. I love that. Like I went to Paul Ainsworth restaurant in number 6, and they put me on the table and I could see into the kitchen, and it was brilliant because it said. Sorry, I'm just pulling these questions up. It said like, we make it happen. ... We make it happen together, and I love that word together at the end. And I'd love to know how that reflects as like one team mindset, like unpack that again, because it's one of those things you can stick on a wall, but in actuality, it can be every man for themselves.
Definitely.
You know?
With the one team mindset, a significant change in how we create that happened during the closure when we had the fire. We had the fire, we were closed for 8 months. And during those
Sorry, I'm gonna have to go back a few steps. So that's get me going. So how did the fire start? Like tell me when you get that phone call, your restaurant's burning down. Like that can't be joyous.
That was pretty bad.
Where were you when you got the phone call?
I was in bed. It was 3:00 in the morning.
Oh my days.
I had 2 missed calls, and on the third time,
What year was this? Sorry, this was
22, July 22.
Oh my days. So we're out of this. We're kind of out of COVID at this point.
It was the year after COVID when everything was booming and the restaurants were doing really well because people were missing eating out. And I was in bed, 2 missed calls, and the third time I picked it up. Obviously, I'm annoyed.
Yeah.
He said, "Who is this?" And he says, "It's Alan from the fire brigade.
Oh my God.
You've had a fire. Don't worry, no one's been hurt. Do you own 22 Charlotte Street?" And I literally felt sick. And he said, "You need to come in. How long are you going to be?" I said, 1 hour. My wife says, "What's happened?" And I said, "We've had a fire." And she groans and she says, "Do you want me to come with you?" And I said, "No, just go back to sleep." And then I get out of bed, and in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm not going to rush because there's nothing I can do about it. I had a shower. I went downstairs, made myself an espresso, called an Uber, and I took my time. And then in the Uber, my mind's like racing. And I arrived onto Charlotte Street, and the fire engines, there was 2 of them, around 25 firemen, cordoned off, lights everywhere. They call me over, and Alan meets me, takes me through the building. And the fire started on the top floor in the kitchen, as it always the kitchen. And because it was on the top floor, the way the fire engine dealt with it was they broke a huge hole in the roof of the building, and then they put all the hoses in and they flooded the entire building to the point that all the stairs, they put sandbags on it to stop the water just flowing down. There was water dripping from all the ceilings like rainfall. And then he took me through the building, and then around 5:00 in the morning, we're standing out on the terrace, and then he says, "Are you okay?" And I'm kind of in a daze, and it kind of feels surreal. And he hands me like a key, and he says, "You're in charge now. are you okay? And then he leaves. He leaves, and that was kind of the start of the fire. And
So what's going through your head at that point? Like the fire engine goes off, like everything you've built for years is suddenly completely eviscerated and decimated like that. Like you've gone from being calm in the Uber to actually probably seeing it. That must be a bit of a juxtaposition. Like sink into that a bit more, like what that feeling was like.
I was, like you said, 1,000 things rushing through my head. My heart's pounding. It's quiet outside. It's dark. No one around.
Was it summer or winter?
It was summer.
Okay. So the birds were probably like
yes.
Eating. Okay, that kind of makes it even more sadistic in some respects.
But it's a vivid memory. And
sure.
I sat downstairs on the bar on the ground floor, and there's water all around me. And I got a sheet of A4 paper, and I started writing everything in my head down onto the piece of paper, who I had to call, what I had to do. And I just sat there and wrote this big list and then started making the phone calls. That's how it started. And by getting it out of my head, somehow it made it easier. And then the rest of the team started arriving about 8 o'clock in the morning. And then we started the whole process of insurance, renovations, cleaning the whole place. And it was a difficult 8 months. And coming back to the 8 months of closure, what we did was, going back to the one team mindset, we knew we needed to keep the team engaged. What we did was, this happened on a Wednesday morning at 3 a.m. On Friday, Jim, my business partner, and I called a meeting with everyone because we knew the first thing we had to do was to make sure the team felt safe and they felt secure. We called a meeting with all of them and said to them, do not worry, we will protect your jobs.
Amazing.
And that's before we knew the cause of the fire, the insurance, and because we knew that ultimately the business is the team. And when we come out of it, we're going to need the team. And from that point, it was, how do we keep them growing, engaged? How do we maximize the time what we have to the benefit of the business, the team, and everything? So twice a week, we got together, we organized different training sessions, from visiting suppliers, vineyards, growth mindset, yoga, everything that we thought will benefit the team. And what happened was, that was the most time the front of house and the kitchen spent together. And they got to know each other so much better than when we're working, because we're working in different parts of the building. And then I noticed that coming out of it, when we reopened 8 months later, how people interacted with each other was significantly different, because there was more of a connection and an understanding. So I thought, we need to carry on this idea. That's why we came up with the idea of every week, someone within the team gives a training for the entire team. The other thing is making the most of when we have lunch and dinner together. We sit down together in the restaurant, front of house and the kitchen, 11 o'clock at lunch, 4:30 p.m. at dinner, without fail. This is really important. And it's bringing those two departments together as often as possible is really important, because in restaurants, there's a divide between front of house.
But also, just for context here for listeners, is the kitchen's upstairs here. It's like 2 floors up, isn't it? Yeah. So like, it is literally geographically, it is massively different.
Exactly.
And as I said, I've got Michel Roux coming on next week, so I read Albert Roux's biography in prep for that. And in that, he was sort of saying, great restaurants, the job, it has to be sort of a symphony between front of house and sort of the kitchen. And as you were saying so rightly, there is this link, and divide, and you've got to be the orchestrator, getting the two to dance together. Yeah. Which kind of links to your one team thing.
Exactly.
In terms, yeah,
yeah.
go on, keep going.
The other thing we do is cross-training. Chefs doing a shift on the floor as a waiter and the front of house doing a shift in the kitchen.
Sick.
Yeah.
What
They love it.
do you think they like? What's some of the learnings from that? Do you think? Or what does that?
It gives them an appreciation of what the other side does.
Yes.
Because we don't understand. Unless we see it, we don't understand. As a chef, they don't really understand what a front of house does in terms of during a busy service, how much pressure they're under. And it gives them context and understanding, which is incredibly important when it comes to one team mindset.
We're going to come back to the sort of the ninth manifesto. It's on your website, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, I'd highly encourage anyone listening to this, no matter what, whether you're in food, drink, restaurants, hospitality, to look at it, because it's really impressive and really like. I can tell it's almost like you've chummed it out of your head, a bit like when the fire was booting off, right?
Yeah.
It's like a lot of thoughts gone into it. We'll get back onto that, but in that manifesto, you do say at one point like you'd worked in some pretty horrid, or not horrid, but intense. And I think on general, hospitality has changed to a much kinder, nicer, probably more balanced place. But I think everything you do comes from, you learn from like good, bad, and ugly from everywhere you work.
Yeah.
Like, as I said, like the startup I worked at, culture was sick for like 3 years. I was like, this is absolutely banging. Bit of a bozzer comes in, it gets decimated. So actually, I've looked at that person, I'm not going to say who it is, but it's like I've actually learned a lot from them because it went wrong.
Yes.
I think you actually probably learn more from like what goes wrong than what goes right sometimes.
Definitely.
What out of the kitchens you worked in, you sort of, where were some of the most sort of intense or hard places you worked that really made this your sort of piece de resistance that gets you out of bed in the morning? I'd love to sort of go into that to really understand why you're so obsessed with this,
Yeah, I don't think... I worked for 7 different Michelin-star restaurants during my career. And there was...
Which ones, just for context? Yeah, because there's...
7 different... Marco Pierre White, Restaurant Marco Pierre White, Le Gavroche, Chez Nico, Les Sauveurs, the Capitol Hotel, the Square, and I went back to the Capitol with a different chef.
Cool.
Yeah. And it was a mix of really hard places and also places that were amazing in terms of the culture that they built. And I wouldn't change my CV for anything. The culinary knowledge that I gained was invaluable from all of them. The hardest kitchen would be Chez Nico, which was, and Marco Pierre White. Chez Nico had 2 Michelin stars at the time, and they went on to get 3 Michelin stars. Nicolas Denny was a lesser known chef than Marco Pierre White or the Roux brothers. But when I started, there were 4 fathers of gastronomy in this country, the Roux brothers, Pierre Kaufman, Nicolas Denny, and Marco Pierre White. Mm-hmm. And working at Nico's, it was difficult because before that I came from Le Gavroche Kitchen, and Le Gavroche Kitchen was a 5-minute walk from Chez Nico. Le Gavroche, 3 Michelin stars, Chez Nico, 2 Michelin stars, within 5-minute walking distance. So there was a rivalry. And having worked at Le Gavroche, coming to Chez Nico, I wasn't the most popular person.
Oh, right. It's like a Spurs fan going into an Arsenal pub.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. That's a great analogy, because it really was like that.
Wow.
And they wanted to show that, to begin with.
And so why did you make that jump? If you can't, did you know it was going to be that hostile going into it, or kind of what was your?
Because I love the food.
You love the food, yeah, and you wanted to learn.
Exactly, and it didn't last. The really hard part was the first, I would say, 4 months.
Take me to the apex of that. Like, what was the hardest bit you went through in that 4 months?
The hardest bit was, as the new boy, you're on the vegetable section. And then being on the vegetable section, we have the fish section and the meat section. On the meat section, we had the head chef, the sous chef. On the fish section, we had 2 senior chef de parties. And I was the guy on the veg section. And we have to coordinate service and time everything. So we're ready to come up onto the pass where Nico Ledeni, the chef owner, would stand, taste everything. What they did was they worked together to cook the meat and fish so quickly, I couldn't keep up with the garnish.
They're doing this to wind you up, sort of thing, or like...
To put me in the shit.
Right.
And then what would happen is the meat and fish would be ready in front of Nico, the chef owner, and the garnish wouldn't be ready. And then he would get really upset and start screaming and shouting at me. And the worst part of it was feeling that I'm on my own, that no one's looking out for me. And I think that was the difficulty. And I've mentioned this before. It was, I used to wake up in the mornings, and then because I was so scared to go into work, I used to cry. And then my dad, luckily I was living with my dad at the time, my parents, and he would say, look, you could leave or you can get it together and go into work. And I got it together and went into work. And within 3 to 4 months, I got good enough that I could keep up. And so it was a really good learning curve in terms of my skill. And I understood as the chef owner why he would be screaming and shouting at me, because I was slow. I wasn't keeping up. And I get it. And I completely accept it. And I guess going through that part of it was learning the importance of making sure that people who work here at the Ninth feel that they are supported and they're part of a bigger team.
On an island, yeah.
Yeah, that's important. But again, I don't regret it.
Yeah.
I really, it's contributed to me as a business owner, and also it's taught me resilience. And going through those experiences in those kitchens, I don't regret it because it has made me more resilient. And when you own your own business, you know this. It's like a roller coaster, and you go through really difficult times.
Oh, God, yeah.
And then if we don't have that experience from beforehand, what can we use as support and a foundation, and thinking, got through this, I can get through this.
Yeah. This thing I talk about, so like completely, like there's so much on that. Like, I think the first thing is the ambiguity and the sort of, go for it. Is the ambiguity of things. And I think what's interesting when you were getting that hairdryer treatment on the reg, and it was like, fucking hell, like I'm getting bollocked. It's so interesting when the thing's on fire here and you're so calm, and then we're almost linking those things together because you're just focus on what you can control. It's like super interesting how this has come to be. And I think you're right. Like, I think your goal is to always be anti-fragile, which is the thing I talk wax lyrical about, which is this great book by Nassim Taleb. And he's basically like, to be anti-fragile, you need, black swan events, which is your fire.
Yeah.
Or you need things to really stress you. I mean, ultimately it boils down to what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But I'd love to sort of go back into the, I can't really pronounce things. What was the restaurant where you're getting the bollocking on the reg?
Chez Nico.
Chez Nico, sorry, yeah. So because there are a lot of people doing this, and I think sometimes when you know what you've got to do and you know what your vision is, you know what your purpose is, there is this lonely period. No matter what you're doing, it's like, as you say, your old man says you're crying. You could go and do whatever. You could go to another kitchen. What keeps you keeping on? First question. Second question is like, how did you get better? Like, how did you speed up? Like, what were the actual practical kind of lessons from that?
What kept me going at that stage, I think support from my dad, for sure, helped a lot. And also, I just wanted to be able to probably pride, ego.
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
want it
You need
place
ego.
to break,
Yeah.
to break me, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it was a combination of both. It was the support, ego, it's the pride, thinking I'm not going to let this break me. And that was it. And in terms of how I got better, that's just day in, day out, just pushing myself to be better and being more organized, really thinking about how do I organize myself during service in a more efficient way? What can I do to be that much quicker? And really thinking about it. And I think when we do that on a consistent basis and think about everything that we do and making it as efficient as possible, we get better. That's just the fact.
What are some of the other learnings or underrated learnings you took from Nico? And like, because I'm assuming eventually it did get quite good. Like after
After 6 months,
6 months,
it was fine.
Just 6 months. That's still a long time. Yeah.
I was there for 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. So like afterwards, what were some of the lessons you've picked up? Because I say with this culture thing that you're so obsessed with, there's good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah.
And there's probably good, bad, and ugly in this right now. Right?
Yeah.
So it's not like I want to like, you know, pull out sort of like really clickbaity things. I just think there's lots of interesting bits. What were some of the like good learnings from him?
The good learnings was, I think, I'm trying to think now. When there was a transition between the old head chef and the new head chef.
Right.
While I was there, they had 3 different head chefs. Well, actually, correct, 2 different head chefs. There was the initial one that when I started, he left, and the person who took over was a chef called Eric Chavot. And I worked for him later at the Capitol, and I was his sous chef. And then when he started, then he built a team around him, and it was completely different. The team was more together, and it wasn't so divided. And I think the way he did that was everyone respected his knowledge and ability as a chef, and he led from the front in terms of the way he cooked. Just out of any chef that I worked with, he extracted flavor from ingredients better than anyone else. And when you see and work with someone like that, you just naturally are drawn to them.
How would he do that? You know what's absolutely mental, mate? London is literally the greatest foodie city in the world with so many absolutely banging, delish restaurants opening on the reg. I absolutely love it. But look, let's get real. There's lots of times where tables are still sat empty, when your favourite spot is silently struggling. And look, every single table counts. Everyone needs solutions, and they need solutions very fast. And that, my friends, is where Eat Club comes in. Eat Club is a profitability tool created by hospitality insiders, including the absolute Don, Marco Pierre White. Eat Club gives top bars and restaurants control of a new stream of quality paying customers to fill those quiet times. No faff, no upfront costs, only upside. Look, if you're in hospitality and you want bums on seats when you need them most, please drop the founder Pan or the VP of the UK, Liz, both absolute legends. Drop them an email, fillmytables@eatclub.co.uk, fillmytables@eatclub.co.uk. That will get you straight through to them and they can help. Please, let's turn those empty tables into profit. If you're a challenger brand that's absolutely killing it in D2C, but you're struggling to crack retail, then you've got to listen to this. Maybe you've got an Ocado listing, maybe you've got a Whole Foods listing, maybe you're absolutely killing it in Selfridges, maybe you're absolutely killing it in your farm shop and your indies. But my friends, making the leap, crossing El Chasm, crossing El Rubicon to grocery retail is not easy. It's the Champions League of FMCG. It's super hard. It means playing at a higher level, and that's where so many amazing brands sadly stumble. Look, retailers want stories backed by data, not dreams, and a pretty pitch deck. And let's be real, supermarkets are not just going to magically make a space for you and your little brand. They need data. Something's got to go for you to get in, for you to get on shelf. And that is why I've got to tell you about North Star. They are the team that's helping purpose-led FMCG brands go from gut instinct dreams to unstoppable pitch decks that actually unlock retailers. North Star are not like another data company that force feed you data like foie gras, that act like a NASA space mission. It's super simple to use. Their team are amazing and they actually get the challenger mindset. North Star are your shortcut to smarter decisions, stronger pitches, and investor confidence, all built specifically for challenger brands like yours. You don't need a massive sales team, you need North Star. Link in the show notes. Click that link and you'll be able to book a free demo with North Star. Highly recommend that, and thank me later. Because I interviewed, Natura, Franco from, Natura, the veg. Yeah, I interviewed him last week.
Yeah.
And he was showing me all these mad vegetables. And like, he was like opening up like a blood orange. He's like, look, this is a piece of, in an Italian accent, this is a piece of art. And I was like, this is so sick. But he was talking about all the chefs, the best chefs are the ones who can pull out, really extract the ingredients. How did he do that? Like, what were some of the ways he was slightly different?
I think his skill was definitely sauces, the meat sauces, the butter sauces, and he learned that from Pierre Kaufman. He worked for Pierre Kaufman for 4 years.
Right.
He was his sous chef.
Right.
And Kaufman is all about flavor.
Yes.
And this is what Eric took from Pierre Kaufman, and it's the way he makes his sauces. To give you an example, a jus is made generally from the bones of the animal that you want to make, whether it's lamb, duck, beef. You roast them off, then you put some vegetables in it, or shallots and mushrooms, and you cover it with alcohol, stock, you simmer it, and you cook it out. But the way he caramelized the bones, they had to be perfectly golden brown all over, because that is the flavor that goes into the sauce. The shallots had to be perfectly caramelized, golden, so it's sweet and has flavor, no kind of dark bits, because that adds slight bitterness. It's all those tiny small things that he put together which made a difference in the final sauce.
And that pulls or lets the flavor of the veg sort of, dance.
Yeah,
wow.
Exactly.
Wow. Take me to your time with Marco. Like, take me to the first day you met him. What did he say to you? What did that feel like?
The first time I met Marco was...
So what chronologically, this was...
Marco Pierre White was 1997. It's after Gavroche first, Chez Nico. After Chez Nico, I went to the Capitol first time. After the Capitol, I went to a place called Les Sauveurs. Les Sauveurs was a 1 Michelin-star restaurant, and the head chef was a French chef called Joël Antonis. And it was the first restaurant they were doing fusion cooking, French and Thai mix.
Wow.
So he worked in Bangkok.
Wow.
And what happened was, this is where I first met Marco.
Right.
Because it was owned by a Japanese company. The chef, Joël Antonis, was an employee. And what they did was, they sold the restaurant to Marco without telling Joël Antonis. And this is how it happened. I have been working 1 year. We go on our break in the afternoon.
Where was this restaurant, just for context?
In Mayfair, in Curzon Street.
Okay, yeah.
In London.
Yeah.
And I come back from the break, and then there is Marco Pierre White sitting upstairs in our reception, and Joël, the chef, is nowhere to be seen. And I get a phone call in the kitchen from Joel. I pick it up, and he says to me, they've sold the restaurant. I'm heartbroken. I can't come back. And that's when I first met Marco. I went upstairs because he asked to see everyone individually. And I sat down with him, and that was our first introduction.
Wow.
When he bought the restaurant.
That's mental.
And...
So what did that feel like when you sat with him? And can you remember what he sort of said to you in that first discussion? Like, because were you planning to stay on at this point under Marco's? Was he going to step in as the head chef? Or?
No, he had.
Did he have like
multiple restaurants?
Okay.
Then. He had a head chef waiting upstairs to come in, take over.
Okay, with you.
Yeah, he had one of his guys.
So he had his little empire by then. Okay, that was
exactly.
Okay. Okay.
And he was interviewing each of us in the kitchen to see who wanted to stay and who wanted to leave.
So what was it like meeting him? How did that feel?
It felt, it was all very sudden to come back from your break in the afternoon, realizing there's a new owner, a new chef. But when I went to speak to him, in my head, I thought this is an opportunity. Because I wanted to work in his 3-star. Because I wanted to work in his flagship restaurant. And this, I felt, was a stepping stone to get to his 3 Michelin-star restaurant.
Was that Harvey's or was that?
That was the restaurant Market Pierre White.
Yeah.
This is at the Hyde Park.
Yeah.
This is when he went from Harvey's to, it was called The Restaurant.
Yeah.
And that's where he got his 3rd star.
Right. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Because I've read his book White Heat. It was a while ago. Yeah, that's mad. And so, what would you? Because what's the other book? Was it White Heat? That was because it's in Wandsworth Common, isn't it? Harvey's. Where's Shea
Yes.
Brewers? Yeah. Because I basically get. Well, that's where I get pissed up is on those two.
How is it?
Yeah. The Althorpe and the Hope is where all my mates are. And I just love walking past it because you've got all those famous pictures of him with the sort of the fag.
Yes.
Like,
Iconic, aren't they?
like so iconic. Yeah. I mean, it's basically those pictures I think is what basically inspired like kind of Bourdain to get going into the rock and it caused the rock starification of chefs for sure. So yeah, under his guidance and tutelage, like how did you get from this sort of French Thai place into Restaurant Marco Pierre White? Like what was that journey like?
Yeah. I stayed at Les Saveurs under Market Pierre White.
Yeah.
For another year. And then what happened was every time I saw him, I said, Marco, I want to work in your 3-star and kept reminding him. And then the opportunity came when I believe someone walked out of the kitchen and then he called me up and then he offered me a sous chef position there. And I said, yes, absolutely. And then that was how I started in his 3-star at the restaurant. And it was...
He wasn't the head chef there, though, right? Or
Marco,
yeah.
He was there every service, lunch and dinner.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, he had his head chef, Robert Reed.
Yeah.
But he was still there on the pass, lunch and dinner.
Wow.
That was his baby.
Okay, so what are some of the lessons he taught you about culture?
I don't think the lessons I learned at the restaurant wasn't about culture. I learned how to cook really well. He used to call his kitchen SAS of Kitchens.
Yes, yeah.
It's written in his book. And he's absolutely right because it was a group of young, very talented, highly motivated, skilled chefs cooking the best food in the country. And it was an amazing experience to work in there because his philosophy was, from my perspective, is perfection at any cost. So all that mattered was the food on the plate. Doesn't particularly matter how you get there, but in terms of the dish, the ingredients, it had to be absolutely perfect. And that obsession of trying to find that perfection is inspiring. You know, they say that genius and insanity is quite similar. And to work at that level, it was 6 days a week, crazy hours. And to consistently work at that level, day in, day out, for that many hours, you learn a lot about yourself.
What did you learn about yourself?
That I have what it takes to be able to do that. And there are times I was there for a year, there are times that I wanted to walk out for sure, but I stopped myself from doing that.
Such as?
What, the incident when...
Well, yeah, some of the incidents. Or
I think to begin with, when I first started I was there as a sous chef, or one of the sous chefs. I was learning from another sous chef because he was moving from the larder section to the fish section. And then within the first week I was there, he walked out. Mm-hmm. which meant that there was no one to teach me. And I was learning as I was going along. Normally there's 3 people on the section. It was down to 2. So I was doing a job that I didn't fully know at that time, and also doing an extra person's job. And it was a nightmare. I mean, genuinely, it was incredibly, it was, still don't forget that feeling. And and during that, probably for the first month, I wanted to walk out, because I couldn't do it. I really couldn't. I was struggling every single day. I used to be fearful of coming into work, and I got through it, and then you learn something about yourself to be able to come out of that.
Yeah. It's the SAS, he said, it's the SAS training of kitchens, or SAS of Kitchens.
And the food is incredible.
Food's incredible. I think one thing, do you think you can have, and again, I'm asking this selfishly, I've got a very negative voice in my head about my work. I'm fucking so critical. I'll do a podcast and someone, I'll be like, that was absolute shit. I've got that nefarious voice in my head. Do you think you can work at that level and that sort of level of intensity and perfection without a real kind of mendacious voice in your head?
I'm like you. Here, I will question things that I do. For sure. Working there, because there is a really clear set of instructions on how everything is done, and you're executing that. It's different, because what you're talking about is it's your podcast. You come up with the questions, the setup, the ideas.
Yeah.
And when you execute it, you question your decision to do those things.
Yeah.
That decision is taken out of your hands in terms of working for somewhere like Marco Pierre White, because all the recipes, the way you run the section, the way it's plated, everything is decided for you. What you're trying to do is trying to replicate that.
Yeah.
It's different.
Totally. Yeah.
So there isn't that voice in the head questioning so much, am I doing it right or wrong? Because I knew what was right and I knew what was wrong, because I have the recipes and I know Marco's expectations. So there wasn't that voice in my head, like an imposter syndrome, I guess, that you're talking about. It wasn't that. It was more about, can I physically and mentally put up with this every single day, 6 days a week for however long? I think it was more to do with that.
Yes. No, it's interesting. And I suppose I'm just trying to work out, would Marco or something, to be when you are the chef and it's your creation, I think the negative voice comes with it. I don't think, and probably the reason, I don't know, this is me sort of teasing something out, is that the reason some of these chefs go ballistic is they've got their vision of what they want in their head. And if it doesn't meet that, then it's going to go.
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What did you pick up from, well, actually quickly on that, so there was a thing in Albert's book, which is when he talks about something going out the past, it was aim for a 10. We'll take a 9, an 8's okay, 7 you can't send out. And I just think it's a really nice way of framing the curse of perfectionism, because perfectionism will make you, well, as it does me, neurotic. I'm mate, you just try your best.
Yeah.
You'll be why the fuck did you do it? And I think it's a really nice frame of just aim for a 10, 9's okay, 8's good, whatever. And then I think that's a really nice way of kind of slowing down those sort of voices of imposter syndrome. But I think you can learn stuff from osmosis from people, not necessarily and I get this from guests pre and post the interview, so Franco from Natura, right? So he gives us a veg box as we're packing down. I'm like, oh my God, the way this guy is putting this veg box together is literally like an artist. This guy genuinely sees fruit and vegetables as art. Julia Metcalf from Pret a Manger, and before the interview, that guy's on the blower to he's got to get off flight to Japan. He is trying to find this one like Kobe ingredient, like the weirdest ingredient for one of their seaweed thins or something. He is maniacal about that, and he's not stopping. As soon as the pod's done, he's like, "Cheers!" Straight away, he's talking back to the guy. I'm like, this is, but it's that level of obsession. I suppose with you, mate, we're like, we need to clean that window. It's like that, looking at things. Yeah. What did you pick up from Marco, from like osmosis, like more just kind of observing, versus him directly saying to you, like, you know, do that with the fucking onion? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not sure this answers the question.
Yeah, just
when I was with Marco, he has this way of making you feel very special. We were all terrified of him. At the same time, we all wanted his attention, you know, and he has this way of making you feel you are the center of the world, you know. Yes. and we all love that.
How? Give me an example of that.
I don't think it's set things. I think it's the way he kind of looks at you and talks to you and pays attention to you. And because of who he is, when we got that much attention, you automatically feel quite special. And I think that was his charisma, I think, had a lot to do with it. And that went a long way within the team, because although we were fearful of him, we were desperate to get his approval.
Why? How would he? What sort of things would he do in terms of getting the fear? Because I think fear is great. Fear's and this is what, again, we're going to go back to how you're doing things here, because but it just gives us a lot of sort of foundation and context for how you're building this culture here. Yeah. Because I don't think fear is necessarily a bad thing. I really like fear. I've spoken to a few people like this. I feel like it sharpens the sword. So like if I'm ever doing something like a presentation or like massive podcast and I'm fucking shitting myself, I'm like, this is good, because it just means I'm just like sharpening myself. How would he create a culture of or like a vibe of fear in the kitchen?
I don't think that was his intention.
Yeah, intentional or unintentional.
Yeah. I mean, just the standards that he set on the dishes that he had on the menu was perfection. And it had to be executed that way every single time. I'll give you an example. One of the dishes I had to do was a ballatine of salmon, and it was poached salmon, 2 fillets, rolled together with herbs on the outside, and it was cooked perfectly pink. And then it was a slice of that in the middle of the plate, and then we had 5 segments of langoustine around the plate. On each segment of langoustine, we brushed it with a vinaigrette, a tarragon vinaigrette. We put 3 pieces of caviar on each of the 5 langoustines. Then in between the langoustines, we had a quenelle of fromage blanc, which is like a cream cheese. But the quenelle had to be done with an espresso spoon. So absolutely tiny. And when I first started there, I couldn't do these tiny little quenelles. It's not a big ice cream one with a tablespoon. It's a tiny one. So I took home containers of this fromage blanc mix at night, and I practiced it at home in bed, trying to get these perfect quenelles until they were perfect. So 5 of those around with the langoustines, and at the tip of each of the quenelles, 2 chive batons, both of them 2.5 centimeters, and then it only had to be the tip of the chive baton, which is where it kind of tapers off, and 2 of those at the tip. And then in between that, there was a sprig of woodland sorrel and the quenelle of caviar on top of the ballatine de salmon. Perfection. It had to be like that every single time. And when we work to that level of detail, you naturally feel kind of the stress of having to replicate that every single time. We sold 25 portions in a night. And you knew about it if it wasn't absolutely perfect, because he will get very upset, which is understandable.
Yeah, I love it. And also, I like the word upset and angry shows the upset shows he actually cares, whereas angry is just, I think there's a slight subtle difference between the two.
He was angry. But I get it. You work for your career, you achieve 3 Michelin stars, and then you're relying on a team of people to replicate that. And if it doesn't live up to that, there's going to be a part of you that becomes upset. Yeah.
But then how? So now with your baby, your restaurant, you've got your standards, you've got the food that you want to create. Linking this back to your sort of culture, like how would you sort of say you've got a dish, we could pick one of your favorite dishes, and it doesn't hit the standards. Like, what's your way of dealing with it? Do you go ballistic? How do you do it in the new sort of culture way of doing things?
I don't lose my temper. Yeah, I haven't lost my temper during service for hopefully probably over a year. And I think the most important is, if it's on the pass and I know it's wrong, is you ask them to do it again. It's not good enough, just do it again. And the good thing about what we do here, it's a sharing concept. And food is served when it's ready. So there isn't all the main courses have to go at the same time.
Yeah.
Which gives us some leeway in terms of, if something's not right, we can say it's not good enough, send another one. And also, if there's a gap, we just send the guest an extra plate of a snack or something to keep them satisfied.
Yeah.
That's really important. And also, I'm not, we don't have 3 Michelin stars. So our standards aren't at that level. And ultimately, I think when I see something that's wrong, the most important part of it for me is the person cooking it is doing the best they can. Sounds a bit of a cliche, but it's really important, because there's a difference between that and serving something you know is wrong. This is a different thing. This is something which upsets me more, is if someone knows what they're handing over on the pass is wrong, but they do it anyway.
That's a bigger problem.
That's a big problem.
That's the cancer to the organised culture.
Yeah, and I will flag it up.
Yeah.
And I'll make a point of it. And I will say, to give you an example, these are the words I say. Tell me what you think of that. And they will know. And they will say...
Even I'm thinking, oh, shit, no, yeah.
And then I will say, that's wrong. Why are you serving it to me?
Yeah.
And they take ownership of it. But that's as far as it goes. And I think that's more important than giving someone a hard time because they're trying really hard, it's busy, and they've made a mistake. And I think when people understand your expectations and they're cooking to those expectations, then I don't think there's a need to be screaming and shouting and getting super upset during service.
What did Marco teach you about your own, like in terms of standards and personal standards, like for everything you do in life, not necessarily in the kitchen?
I'm not as obsessive. Would I call myself a perfectionist? I don't think so. I'm not sure. You'll have to ask someone else to really to know. Maybe in certain areas, maybe, but I don't think I am. I think I can let go of certain things because they're not as important to me. In certain areas, for instance, like the culture, I don't let anything go when it comes to that. If there's a difficult conversation to be had, if someone isn't following the culture that we have, then I will address it straight away. In terms of, looking at this restaurant, I can see, the table needs to be revarnished on the edges. If I was a perfectionist, that I wouldn't be able to sleep because
Yeah.
those things will get to me. But I know that it's not realistic to be constantly on like that. And if I was, it would drive me out the wall, I think.
Yeah, no, I think it's yeah, because I'm probably a bit like that. Like not weirdly perfectionist, but the voice in my head can get negative if things aren't going the way I like them to go. But I think they're like aim for a 10, but be happy with a 7 is a really good place to be. Whereas if you're just like, fuck, why is it not a 10? Like you can go, as you say, you're driving out the wall. I think another part of cultures that grow and breed is Tim Ferriss has got a quote, which you are the sum of the difficult conversations you have with yourself and other people.
Yeah.
What's the hardest conversation you've ever had?
That's a great question. Probably, I won't. The hardest question would be something too personal to talk about.
Sure.
I'm just trying to think. And it's really important. That's a great quote by Tim Ferriss, because when I talk to, something will come to my mind when I'm just talking. I talk to like the leadership team and I say, if there's a conversation that you feel really uncomfortable with, this is the one that you have to have.
Yes.
And we have to lean into it, because whatever that conversation is, we will benefit from it, whether it's the person you're talking to or whether it's yourself. And I think every time I feel that, I lean into it, but less and less now. In terms of the restaurant, I don't find anything that uncomfortable anymore, because...
And the reps.
Yeah, I really don't. And even if, because I address it straight away. Yeah, at work, I really don't have, I know it feels as if I'm not being truthful.
No, it doesn't, because I get the whole the reps thing.
Yeah.
It's like, even with doing this podcast, right, for 4 years, like hundreds of episodes, it just gets you good at asking, like, through doing repetitions, asking scary questions or having different scary conversations, and that bubbles into my personal life. So like, if something's not right, I've done the reps, so I totally empathize with what you're saying. It's like if you've had 1,000, it's like doing stand-up comedy, right? Not that I've ever done it and don't have plans to, but like the first time you get on stage, you're going to be fucking cacking your pants.
Yeah.
You do that enough times through repetition, it becomes it becomes less. And I totally get that. As I say, we'll just jump around severe.
There is an uncomfortable conversation now that I have to have when I get home with my neighbour.
Okay, because
because
I take your neighbours not going to be listening to the Hungry podcast.
No, I don't think he will be. But that is right now, because you mentioned it, that is the uncomfortable conversation I need to have. And I'm going to lean into it.
What have the neighbours done then?
No, it's what I did. I replaced the trellis, which is the garden fence between his garden, my garden, because it was rotten. But I didn't ask him about it. That's the conversation.
Okay.
Yes, but it's a really nice trellis. And he's complaining, that it doesn't, that I didn't talk to him.
Just going with some nice food and just. No, I love that. And as I say, we'll jump around. Drop me, parachute us in right to the apex of your first day at Le Gavroche. Because I think your old man recommended 4 restaurants for you to work at. And actually, maybe let's rewind a little bit before then. Like, what pulled you to this? What what pulled you into food? What pulled you into being a chef? And then how did you get into the take us into the first day at Le Gavroche?
I've always loved eating.
Yeah.
My mum is a fantastic cook, and growing up, there was nothing I wouldn't eat. You know, kids always have things that they don't. Nothing at all.
Beige banquet for most.
Yes.
Yeah. I do like a beige banquet, to be fair. Yeah.
And the family dinner, because my mum was a housewife, was the highlight of my day. I used to look forward to it all the time because she used to go through different cookbooks, try new recipes, and I used to love that. And the only time I used to complain or make a fuss was when she used to cook chips, because I felt she wasn't making enough of an effort. Spoiled little brat.
So you did have standards, mate. You had very high standards.
And then
so funny.
loving food that much and eating, it just felt
What
natural.
sort of dishes would she cook then? Any standouts that like...
Japanese, like sukiyaki, which is like a hot pot with different meats and noodles and vegetables. And then she would do katsukare, which is the Japanese curry, which is like a pork chop, Japanese breadcrumbs, deep fried with steaming rice, and then the Japanese curry sauce, which is completely different from any curry sauce. Have you ever had it?
I've had... So I went to Japan, oh my God, 2019 now. Yeah, for the World Cup.
Nice.
Had the most amazing time. But is that the sorry to wagamamify the fuck out of this, but is that like the katsu curry sauce, or is it slightly different?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wagamama do a not very good version of it.
Yeah.
Yes, but you're right.
That's all. Yeah, I think we're all good. Yeah. So it's because what I learned or was surprised about in Japan is how you go to like one place and it's like, we just do tempura.
I love that.
Yeah. Oh, we just do. I mean, I think in one of the markets they do like chicken ass on a fucking skewer.
Yeah.
My dad was like, "I'm all right, mate."
It's delicious.
It is delicious. Yeah, he was like, "I'm not eating chicken arsehole." Do you know what I'm saying? But it's that specialization which I think is really unique to Japanese culture. It's like you're going to do one thing at sashimi, you're going to do it so well.
And you do it for 50 years.
Yeah, it's like kind of the craftsmanship of it all. So she was making all those dishes, and then what's from there?
And asked my dad his recommendation on where I should apply. And at the time, he was a businessman working in London, eating out all the best places.
What was he doing?
Worked for a chemical engineering company, Mitsui.
Right.
And he recommended Le Gavroche, Chez Nico, Marco Pierre White, and Le Temps Clair. And I applied to all of them. I wrote a letter, and
What did you write on the letter?
I said I was a student. So going back, I got into college, and
Were you growing up in London? Where were you growing up?
I went to school in the Cotswolds, and then when I went to college, I went to Cheltenham.
Okay, yeah.
And it was a hotel management course for 3 years.
Yep.
First year at college, second year placement, third year back at college.
Yep.
After doing the first year, so what happened was, to be truthful, after the first year, I didn't turn up to most of the classes. The only thing I used to turn up for was on a Tuesday, which was the cooking, which I loved. After the first year, I got a letter through the door when I was during the summer holidays saying, due to your lack of attendance, we won't require you to come back to college. This is when I was 19. And my dad sees this letter and he says, okay, what are you going to do? And that's at that point, I thought, I love eating. The only part that I really enjoyed at college was the cooking part. And this is when I sent out all the letters. And I said that I was a student, kind of, looking for work experience. I love food, and sent the letters off. And the one place that replied to me was Le Gavroche. Had an interview, spoke with Albert Roux, and amazingly, he offered me like an apprentice position. And I started on the canapé section, first day.
What taught me, like, because I swear there was a massive waiting list, wasn't there?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
What did you do differently? You may not know the answer to this, versus others that you think Albert thought, right, Jun, I want you in my kitchen. Like, how did you play the game?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Yeah, I really don't
So
know.
what did he ask you? Like in the like?
To be honest with you, I can't. This is 35 years ago.
Yeah,
I
of
can't
course, yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
And I can remember being really nervous, but I can't remember the
Specifics.
interview questions. Maybe it was just, I don't know, talking about food and how much I loved eating. Maybe.
Yeah.
And you're right, though. It was an unbelievable opportunity. And to be honest with you, I didn't realize how lucky I was until probably a couple of years afterwards, you know, looking back, thinking Le Gavroche was one of two restaurants that had 3 Michelin stars, the Waterside Inn and Le Gavroche. That's it. And I had a 2-year waiting list, and I was given that opportunity. And it was such a gift. And I only appreciated it with hindsight because it opened the doors for everywhere else. And I can still remember the very first job I did 35 years ago.
Take me through that, yeah.
Julienne 3 heads of celeriac,
Right.
which is cut into really thin matchsticks. And I got there at 8 o'clock in the morning. By 12 o'clock, I still hadn't finished, cut myself a dozen times. And I remember the chef de partie on the section checking, saying, no, this is too thick, too thin, too long. And that attention to detail was, I couldn't believe it. And it was for a remoulade. A remoulade is a mixture of celeriac, apple, grain mustard, and mayonnaise, all bound together. And it was for one of their canapes. And yeah, I can still remember that after that long.
How was that kitchen different from Nico and Marco? Like, how's the texture of it different?
I think it was one of the things I learned from that was how the discipline, not just in the way we cooked, but how we dressed. Everyone had to be clean shaven, and how we kept our sections very organized, tidy. When we cleaned down at the end of the night, everything was like super clean. And it wasn't just about the recipes, the food. It was about how we approach our whole profession. And it was the most professional kitchen that I worked with in its entirety, in terms of everything. Yeah.
Really? What were some of the things that they'd be professional about that most other kitchens probably wouldn't think about?
I think it's just a combination of everything.
Right.
How we organize the sections, how we show up to work, how our chef whites are ironed, we're clean shaven, we had to wear these skull caps. The following the recipes, it's a collection of all these small things put together that makes it stand out from other places.
And what did you learn? Like, what are some of the key? So that professionalism stuff. What are some of the lessons you've taken from there that you applied to the culture now today?
I think, in terms of the culture, not so much.
Was it so different back then, or like
Yeah.
how was it so different? Was it kind of
Because
bombastic like the other two places, or
no, it was, 35 years ago, workplace culture, especially within a kitchen, it wasn't even a word that we talked about. Right? This is a different era.
Sure.
And so it wasn't a priority and it wasn't a focus. And it was more, what I learned from there was the importance of consistency. And, they held their 3 stars or 2 stars 57 years. And to be able to do that at that level for that long is just outstanding. And I believe that they achieved that by being very disciplined about what they do, being super organized. I mean, you can ask,
Yeah, I'll ask
Michelle
next week. Yeah.
I'm just talking from my experience just working there for a year. And it's an astounding achievement to be able to do that. Just thinking about doing that at that level for that long makes me tired.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do that. And it's that level of consistency, which is something that I try to instill in the team here. And the discipline part of it, we're not as disciplined.
How are you less disciplined?
How are we less disciplined? I'll come back to that one.
Yeah,
Just trying to think.
Yeah, no, it's because I think that like there's a guest I'm having to come on, Dirty. I don't know, again, it's more of a consumer good. You know, Dirty, it's like the mushroom drink.
I don't. No.
Like, doing a massive business, huge on DTC, doing millions. But one of my questions for them is like, because I think you can be so disciplined or so optimized that you're actually under-optimized in the sense so I had that with this podcast, right? So I kind of listen to more, like, I like to drink and party and right. So, but like, I went through a stage where it's like I can only do a podcast if I've meditated, run, I had no carbs beforehand. Like it was almost like I'm trying to be so perfect. Really? Yeah. And I was like, this is just like bollocks. Like it's like I can have a ham sandwich beforehand. I'll be absolutely fine. Yeah. And I think it's you can be so optimized. Or the other thing is like morning routines, right? It's like if you get out of bed and you haven't done your cold plunge or whatever like that, you start going, oh, it's like that you're too optimized. Yeah. And there's a podcast I listen to called Chris Williamson, who is one of those super optimized bros, right? Yeah. He's like all into that sort of stuff. And he's like, actually, there's probably a bit of a curse to it. And I think sometimes you can be too disciplined to the point where it's like, it's sort of pathological, you know? Yeah.
And if you don't follow that discipline, if something throws you off, you can't perform as well.
Exactly that. So I remember when it went completely out of the... Well, when I kind of just... It went on for probably 2 months worth of podcasting. Yeah. I started listening to him. I was like, bro, like, I'm doing no carbs and, you know, all this bollocks. And have you ever been to the Unruly Pig up in Suffolk?
I haven't.
Best gastro pub. Brendan, absolute legend. His pub went on fire as well, actually.
Okay.
But met him, and the podcast was meant to start at 12, and there was just like 2 tables set out, and he was like, oh no, we're having a very long wine-filled lunch beforehand. So we had lunch for 4 hours and then did a 3-hour podcast.
What?
And that's when I was like, you know what, all this optimization bollocks, that's going out the window. I've had like 3 glasses of wine and loads of pudding and whatnot. But yeah, is there anything that's come to you about the less disciplined than the Gavroche? Or were you a bit more sort of freer on that cage of discipline sometimes?
Yeah, I would... Yeah, it's trying to find something. It's a difficult question. You know, our kind of... I don't want to take away from what we do at the same time, because when you talk about things that we're not as disciplined, it feels that
you don't care.
I'm
not. It's not that.
No, I know that.
Yeah. That's why it's hard.
It's trying to phrase it in a way that, you know, the Gavroche is up here.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like at the pinnacle, and we're not as disciplined. For sure, you know, our standards are not as high as somewhere like the Gavroche. And so I would say we're not as consistent as Le Gavroche, for sure, in terms of the food. Mm-hmm. I think Gavroche is on a different level, for sure. That's kind of...
Yeah, no, I think it's because one thing I was going to ask you is like you've worked in these 3-star kitchens. Yeah. Like, you've got 1 star here. Do you want 2 stars? Would you rather have 1 star for 20 years or get 2 stars for 5 years? Like, if you were to give those options, like, what would you want? Like, and I think it's interesting because I think you listened to the pod with Ash. It's like the chef who did. The 3-star chef, I can't remember his name now. Yeah, who ended up killing himself, unfortunately. Like the fucking pressure of that. It's like, how do you sit with those two? That sort of the sort of the pressure and of getting two, or are you very happy with your one? And you'd rather that? Like, how does that sit in your mind?
Very happy with one.
Very happy with one, and you can
Yeah.
do your own thing.
Our goal is not to get two. Sorry, I phrased that in the wrong way. That's not kind of who we are, and it's not my purpose at all. And we're very happy with retaining one every single year. And for me now, it's more about building the business, the culture, and teaching the team that's coming through. And that's what I get most fulfillment out of, rather than looking for more accolades.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Some people, that's their ultimate goal. And I admire that.
Yeah.
100%.
How did you find your unique style? Because you've worked under all these huge,
Yes.
gastronomic sort of heavyweights. And I think stylistic and like your own, soul in your art, soul in your work is a really important thing, but like not the easiest thing to do. How did you do that when you opened the 9th?
Continually learning still in terms of what we do, because in cooking, you're learning every single day. And I think for me, the most important was my foundation in classic French. Every restaurant I worked in was very classic French. And it was an amazing foundation to build upon.
Yeah.
And once I had that, it was what I enjoy to eat. This is really important, is what do I want to eat? And then creating the dish with that thought in mind. And it's creating a dish that I look on the menu and think, I want to eat that. That is the driving factor of it. And we use classic French recipes in terms of the sauces, the pastry. And I prefer Mediterranean flavors because it's more fresh and vibrant. Italian food, one of my favorites. And it's finding that my own style using the classic French recipes, things that I would like to eat, and my love of Mediterranean flavors. To give you
a dish that best encompasses that, or like how you'd go about doing that.
Ossobuco tortellini. They're capelletis, which are the small tortellinis. Ossobuco, which is the veal shin, it's a classic Italian dish from Milan, and it's normally braised with loads of tomatoes, vegetables, and served with a saffron risotto. What we do is we take the ossobuco and braise it in the French way, which is with brown chicken stock, with white chicken stock. We put Madeira, we put white wine in it, a mirepoix, which is carrots, onions, tomato. And then we braise it for around 3 hours. Then we take it out the oven, and then we reduce the sauce with the meat. And what happens is we intensify the flavor of the ossobuco.
Wait, so sorry, when you reduce the sauce with the meat, what's that doing? That's giving it more
Flavor.
Okay, sure.
Reduction of sauces is a very French classical technique where we strain the sauce. So we take the meat out, strain the vegetables, and then we've got the liquid, the alcohol, the cooking juices, and also the stocks. And we reduce that down. And as we do that, the sauce becomes thicker because the water is evaporating. And also it intensifies in flavor. And what we do is we get the meat of the ossobuco, put that in the sauce.
Yeah.
As it reduces down, it starts to glaze the meat. And this is a very French way of cooking, where the sauce coats the meat and intensifies the flavor. Once we do that, then we chop it up into small, kind of mash it into small pieces. We add some of the vegetables from the braising stock. Then we stuff the little capelletis. So the technique is the flavor of braising the ossobuco, reducing the sauce, and then taking that and putting it into the pasta. And the sauce that we serve with it is some of the braising liquor from the ossobuco. And then we serve that with a gremolato, which is a classic parsley dressing, which is traditionally served on ossobuco milanese. And then we have some lardo over the top and some Mirinda tomatoes, which are these variety of quite sour tomatoes. So it's essentially a cappelletti, which is an Italian dish. It's taking ossobuco, which is the braised veal shin, with saffron risotto, which is traditional, but then cooking the ossobuco in the French way and then putting it inside the pasta for the cappelletti.
Yeah, no, it's just understanding how your creative process works. And it's kind of the forging of two different, or not different, but kind of similar types of cooking, but then getting your unique style. How do you like evolve the menu? Because is this in its 9th year or 10th year?
10th year.
10th year. Wow. I mean, that's amazing achievement in of itself.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, I can't believe it.
Like, how do you keep evolving? Because again, like culture needs to reinvent and evolve. Like, I think businesses are organisms.
Yeah.
Like one of the things I was speaking to Franco about from Natura was about like how business and nature are actually so kind of really similar if you really go into the weeds on that and the parallels. And it's like survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got to be around for 10 years, you've got to be adaptive, you've got to pivot, you've got to change and evolve, otherwise you fuck off and die. Yeah. Like, how have you reinvented this place other than the fire? Like, how do you constantly reinvent?
In terms of
just in terms of like keeping it
current
and like, I don't know, like I just feel like the best things reinvent themselves.
Yeah.
Like in terms of artists, David Bowie, right? Like the Beatles, I talk about the Beatles a lot, but like in 9 years, if you listen to the first Beatles album to the last, like that journey is like they're completely different, and they still kept the same soul of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I think some of the best restaurants do that, or like the ones that have longevity do that. Like, how could you speak to that yourself?
Involve the team. I think that's super important.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
In terms of, if I take the menu, Filippo, the head chef, is super involved with that. Erica, the sous chef, and not just in terms of the menu itself, but in the way we operate the business, the culture. It's constantly asking the questions. What do you think? Getting the feedback from the team and getting their perspective on it is a way of being constantly improving and seeing it from a completely different perspective. And we do that as often as we can. You know, I love my probably favorite for words. What do you think?
Yeah.
I love that. And getting people's ideas and listening to them. And sometimes we don't agree with it and we won't implement it. And sometimes they come up with such a great idea and you think, yes, this is something that we want to implement.
Well, that's the thing as well. Like, again, linking that to like sort of the nature and survival of the fittest is diversity.
Yeah.
Is an adaptive thing. If you're more diverse, you're stronger and more likely to survive. And it's like getting different perspectives and ideas keeps the thing evolving. What are some of the most beautiful ideas that have come from those conversations, you think?
A recent one. I'll give you a recent one. This sounds, it's a bit boring. All our dry stores, they're all labeled with the label printer. So they are all kind of printed on a machine. They come out, you stick them, they're printed. And there are a lot of these containers.
Yeah.
And John, our junior sous chef, we bought a new label printer. And rather than typing each one individually and printing it off, which would have taken a long time, he took a photo of the existing dry stores with all the labels. Then he asked ChatGPT to turn it into an Excel spreadsheet and then put the Excel spreadsheet into the new printer and asked it to print out all the labels. And literally, a job that could have taken us a few hours was
half
an hour.
Yeah,
I couldn't have done that. You know, I wouldn't have even thought about.
I wouldn't have thought about that. Yeah.
Exactly. And that was, super valuable. Another idea, Fiona, chef de party, when we do our stock takes, she suggested every section has their own stock take, and she suggested putting it in alphabetical order. And that way it makes it easier and quicker to find the ingredient. Because
Yeah.
just naturally, it's a lot quicker when you have a list like this, a long list. If they're alphabetical, it's a lot quicker to find it.
Yeah, it's just simple little things, isn't it? Yeah. But it makes you stronger.
It does.
These little adaptive things. The like one thing, like you've gone through a lot of change, and I think ambiguity in having your own business.
Yeah.
And like it's something I'm struggling with now is like investing a lot to growth, but there's like almost a growth lag.
Yeah.
You're sort of the squeaky bum time thing. It's sort of that you go between like this sort of the it's almost the bipolar of having your own business, like the euphoria versus the fuck me, everything's going Pete-tong.
Yeah.
How have you dealt with change and ambiguity like across your career? Like what's been the hardest change, do you think?
It's difficult. Running your own business, there is always ambiguity.
Yeah.
And for me, I think the most important is to understand what our vision is for the place, and the decisions we make for the business, first of all, has to align with that. I think that's really important.
Okay.
So we have a vision of what we should be, and then the decisions we make have to align with that, first of all. The other thing is not to search for the perfect decision, because then we procrastinate, because we're fearful of making a mistake, which is natural. But if we are constantly trying to find the perfect decision, in terms of we have two choices to make, and then we research one decision over and over again until we feel we've got enough information.
That's back to the sort of that's where less discipline is an advantage.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
like, let's not funny around. Let's just fucking make this.
Be decisive.
Yeah, be decisive.
Yeah. And not looking for that kind of perfect decision. If you feel it's the right decision, 70% of the information tells you this is the way to go, then I think as the owner of the business, it's our responsibility. Let's do this. We're going to try it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Then we pivot and try something else. And yeah, it is about, I'll tell you, I'm more on the cautious side. I find it really difficult sometimes to take risks.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
That's mad. So
Yeah.
how do you? Because often it's like, okay, that's an interesting place.
It's all comparative.
It's all
Compared
comparative.
to someone who works for a business, I take risks. I've opened a restaurant. It's massively,
Of course.
yeah. But then I look at myself with my peers.
I was going to ask you, who are some of your peers in the industry that you sort of just chat with these things through? And
Joe Paddy and Bun,
yep,
he's the founder. He now has the
Waterman Arms. Isn't
Waterman Arms.
it?
Such a great place.
So good.
Yeah.
But when the windows are open, you can see onto the river.
Yes.
It's like a majestic sort of
Beautiful place.
transcending experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that place. We were there for a chef lunch probably about 2 months ago. And I remember him when he was talking about the first Paddy and Bun. And he's someone that just goes with his gut. And I admire that in him, where he feels something is right and he just follows it through and he goes out all guns blazing. I wish I could have more of that, but I'm just naturally not like that. I would look at, the pros and cons, get more information. And sometimes I spend a little bit too much time getting that information before making the decision.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that I can improve on just going with something that I feel is the right decision, not having to need all the actual information.
Yeah.
There's two sides to it.
There's two sides to it, yeah, for sure. Who are some of your other sort of peers or people you look up to in the industry?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot. But I'll come back to it.
Yeah.
I think it's someone,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
it's just some,
There are.
there's one of the best cities in the world for
I know,
food. There's
I know.
lots of people. Maybe a better phrase, like, who do you call when things are hard?
I call Mark, who is a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And he owns a business called Food Initiative. And he owns a business in Borough Market called Shook.
Shook.
It's like Middle Eastern Israeli street food.
Oh, yeah.
And they do pizzas. And I had a business with them about 12 years ago called Street Kitchen.
Okay, yeah, I think I remember reading that, yeah.
And we started business together and we worked together at the Square with Phil Howard. Phil Howard, obviously, is someone I deeply respect just because of what he's achieved over his career.
What did he teach you? That was his little special little something that...
Just pure deliciousness when it comes to food. You know, his food is just the kind of food that I want to eat, first of all.
Yeah.
That's something I learned. When you go to his restaurant, Ellison Street or the Square, and you sit down, you read the menu, it's full of things that I want to eat.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what to choose. And it's the way he writes the menu, it's how he thinks about it when he creates the menu.
How does he do that? Like, how's he different versus all the other guys you work with?
I think everyone's unique in their own way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, how, if it's his thing's pure deliciousness.
Yeah. You'll have to ask him.
Yeah.
I think when he thinks about a dish, he really thinks about seasonality, which is super important, and also how just purely delicious it is.
Mm.
And yeah, I worked for him at the Square, and now he's at Ellison Street, and I've been there, and yeah, the food is amazing. And coming back to Mark at Shook, yeah, he's someone I call because he can give me honest advice, and I value his opinion.
Yeah, it's just having someone as a sounding board is invaluable, who's like close to what you're doing,
Yeah.
but also quite far removed from it.
Definitely.
Like, I've got a mate with pitch decks and potential sponsors and stuff. Like, he's close. And again, if, I can't remember the exact thing I asked him. Like, what did you have for breakfast, sort of thing. But it's just having that sounding board of being like, am I doing this right? Or like, should I tweak this?
Yes.
It's not often one thing. It's just having that thing to scream into the abyss, and it comes back with sort of dulcet tones of, just make this little tweak.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it.
And you're right, it's like a sounding board. And also it gives you a little bit more confidence.
Yes. Because that's the other thing I was going to ask you is, what would you ever want to do more restaurants, or like, where do you sit with that? Because, the fallow guys, Will and Jack, they want to expand.
Yeah.
Some are very happy with their little paradise.
Yeah.
That's great. Have you ever, unbelievable pub who I interviewed, based up in like near Preston.
Okay.
Right, and it's like he's French. It's like they love David Bowie, and it's like been in the gastro top 50 pubs.
Yeah.
But it's just, in terms of like someone's soul in their restaurant, it's fucking all over the shop. And she's like, we just want this one place. It's our paradise.
Right.
And like, and there's something beautiful about that. But where do you sit on that spectrum?
The right opportunity, we would open another restaurant.
Yeah. And how would you do it, do you think?
In terms of
Would it be very similar to this? Would it be a different name? Would it be a different concept altogether?
It would be a completely different concept.
Yes.
Yeah, it would be something. Yes, there'll be a connection to the ninth, but it will be a different concept, something new, and it's about finding the right location.
Yeah.
finding the right people to partner up with. That's super important. And I think it's also good because it gives an opportunity for the team to grow into something, which is really important. Because when we have just one place, there's a ceiling that the team get to,
Yeah.
whether that's a GM, a head chef. If they want to grow as within their profession, unless we grow, there isn't anywhere for them.
Yeah. Well, I think a shade of purpose is growth. Like you need to be growing, otherwise you're just like getting back to this sort of organism thing.
Yeah.
A few more things, mate. We're beginning to wrap this up. I'm loving this and learning so much. But like, you seem to be able to deal with pressure. Well, evidently, one of the, some of the things is like when you're in those first couple of kitchen, like, can I do it? And you've, how do you deal with pressure when, quite literally for you, everything's burning around you?
Yeah.
Like, what are some of the ways you deal with pressure, and how could I deal with pressure better? So I feel like sometimes pressure's like a fucking gun to your head, and you're just like, it's good to an extent, but it can get a bit.
Yeah. Breathing. I know this, everyone tells you this, but it does make a huge difference. When we're faced with something that happens and then we can feel the pressure, and for me, it's in my chest. I don't know for you, and I feel this build up of pressure around my chest.
Like an elephant kind of just like.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
And then when I start to feel that, because I'm really attuned to it, I kind of breathe and take a moment. If it's in a really difficult situation, I will always take a moment before saying anything, doing anything, reacting. Because generally what happens with us is if we react in the moment, it's going to be the wrong thing, whether it's the words that we say or the actions that we do, is take a moment. And then I compartmentalize it, which means that I control what I can control and the rest is what it is. To give you an idea of the fire, when I sat downstairs, there are a list of things I can do. I can't control the fact that we had a fire. I can't control that we're flooded. But I can call the insurance company first, get the cleaners in, team meeting to talk to them, speak with my business partner. And it's doing the things that I can do and control. This is really important. And actually, just sitting there thinking sometimes isn't the best thing. Action is really good in stressful situations. When we chip away at those small things and we're doing, it's so much better than just procrastinating, just in your head, just going through in your mind the different scenarios, or should I do this? Should I do that? Or have I done this? And I think taking a moment, a breath, really thinking about it, then compartmentalizing what can I control, what can't I control, and then the things that we can control, just start actioning those things just one by one. I think that helps a lot. And also, it's get everyone around you involved. That really helps.
Yeah. I watched there's a thing of, I think it was in a news that I read about Jeff Bezos saying like, stress only comes from not taking action on problems.
Yeah.
So if you start trying to make your list when your thing's on fire, if restaurant's on fire, like suddenly that stress begins to sort of dissipate.
It does. And getting everyone else involved. The team around me ask their opinions. What do you think? Should we be doing this?
Yeah.
Delegate.
Yeah.
And really kind of get them involved. And sometimes I find what helps is if I verbalize it. I can say, I feel really stressed. By just saying that to somebody actually helps. I try to do that also with other emotions. When I'm angry, if you say, I'm really angry, actually helps a little bit to release that tension. And going back to the pressure, when I'm feeling stressed, just saying, I feel really stressed, whether it's to Ink, my wife, it helps. And then just talking about it, not keeping it inside. Talk, just get it out. It's almost like this, it's a pressure, like you said, an elephant standing on you. And by writing it down, action, talking, you're releasing that out of your body, I think.
Yes.
And that relieves the pressure.
I completely agree. How do you sort of spend your time outside of this? Do you have like kids, or like how do you sort of separate from this world?
I don't have any kids.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of my time with my wife. I love eating out. I go to the gym. I love going to the gym. And then I listen to a lot of audiobooks.
Oh, really? Like,
Yeah.
interesting. Such as?
Most of it is on leadership. Simon Sinek, who wrote Start With Why, John C. Maxwell, Patrick Lencioni. It's all about culture, building teams. And I listen to that on the way to work, on the way home, at the gym, when I'm cleaning at home. So whenever I'm doing something that doesn't require my full attention, then I'm listening to the audiobooks. And I learn a lot from them. And a lot of the development of the culture at the Ninth has come from learning from those books. And the great thing is, listening to something or reading about something and thinking that is a great idea, and then being able to implement it and seeing...
There's an excitement to that.
Yeah, the reaction, the effect that has. Sometimes it doesn't work. It's really satisfying. And also, I want to feel that I'm improving.
Do you regret not having kids?
I would like to have kids.
You'd like to have kids.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I'd like to have kids.
Yeah, because that's the thing is on my agenda at some point. But I'm so fucking infused with this that feels like this is my kid. Right? Do you know, a lot of people say their brand is their baby, and it's like,
It's never a right time.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, quite literally. Yeah.
If this is what I'm told is, if we wait when we feel we're ready, it never happens.
Yeah.
And then we manage, right?
Yeah, you'll figure it out. Yeah, it's just like you going into the kitchen the first day, at Nico's place. Like,
you'll figure it out.
Figure it out. What are some of the restaurants you love going to in London? Okay, back to this. We'll link it right back to where we started. What are your favourite restaurants? What are the ones you go to frequent more than once? I think it's such a better way of looking at things versus, the high status, hooty fluty wanky one,
Favorite restaurants, Weston's Laundry.
Yep.
Which is in the Highbury, do you know it?
No.
Yeah. It's a group. They own Jolene, Prima.
I've been to Jolene, yeah.
Weston's Laundry, it's the same group. They focus on seafood, super casual. I love the place. Lita in Marylebone. It's a new restaurant opened up about a year ago. They got a star this year, although...
Lita, Lita. Okay, yeah.
You should go.
Quite easy.
Mediterranean food. Yeah. But really, it's not what you would expect a Michelin-style restaurant to be. It's a beautiful dining room, but understated, very simple, a few ingredients on a plate, but it's very delicious. I love Camille in Borough Market, which is a French restaurant. It's not classic French. There's a twist on it. I've been there 3-4 times. Perilla in Stoke Newington, another favourite of mine. It's 7-minute walk from my house. It's modern European, very creative, amazing service, delicious food, cooked by Ben, and his business partner Matt is on the floor. And they opened a new place called Morcella. Yeah, those are...
Have you been to Oran? Have you ever been there in like Dorset?
I have, yes.
Yeah,
that's really good.
I really, really had a very wonderful time there.
Yeah.
And what is it about those restaurants that pull you back other than the food? Like for you personally?
The service.
Yeah.
I think it's nice to be recognized and know the people there and say, how's it going? And you kind of feel you're going to a friend's house.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Anything else you'd want to say? Because what you've put on that culture documents kind of escaped my brain, right? But like, I think everything you were saying, mate, is just ringing so true. And is there anything else you kind of wanted to explore on that document that we haven't touched upon?
I think we've covered quite a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mate, that's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you
so
so much. That was epic.
That was great.